I thought I understood strength. Then a human female tore a reinforced door off its hinges, just because someone hurt her friend. Look, I have been teaching at the Galactic Military Academy for 20 standard cycles now, and I thought I had seen everything. Every species, every personality type, every kind of cadet that crawls, slithers or stomps through these halls. My name is Kelth. I am Vexorian. And before you ask, yes, we are the ones with the forearms and the superiority complex. Guilty as charged on that last part, I suppose. Station Prometheus 7 is not just any training facility, mind you. This is where the Galactic Coalition sends its best and brightest to become officers, tacticians, warriors. The elite of the elite. We have Krallick's battle masters who can bend steel with their bare hands. We have Thorian's siege specialists whose exoskeletons can withstand plasma fire. We have Zendari pilots with reflexes so fast they can navigate asteroid fields blindfolded. This place breeds champions. And champions? Well, they follow certain rules. Unwritten rules. Sure, but rules nonetheless. The strong rise. The weak adapt or wash out. Physical prowess equals respect, equals authority, equals your place in the hierarchy. It has been this way for millennia across 100 worlds. You prove yourself in combat trials, in endurance tests, in strength competitions. You earn your rank not just through academics, oh no, but through demonstrating that you can crush your enemies when the moment demands it. I know. Sounds harsh, right? Sounds primitive. But here is the thing. Out in the black between stars, when your ship is boarded or your outpost is under siege, you need warriors. You need soldiers who will not break, who will not flee, who have been tested and proven. So yes, we let the cadets establish their own pecking order. We supervise, sure, but we let nature take its course. The cream rises, as they say. The rest? They find support roles or they transfer to administrative tracks. No shame in it. Not everyone is born for combat. Then there was Marcus Webb. Human. Male. Roughly 1.7 meters tall, maybe 65 kilograms soaking wet. Thin arms. Thin legs. Thin everything really. Pale skin that looked like it had never seen a proper sun. Dark hair that fell in his eyes. Nervous energy that followed him like a shadow. He tested high in technical aptitude. Very high actually. Top marks in systems engineering. Advanced computing, tactical analysis, his brain, first rate, his body. Well, let us just say that when he arrived at Prometheus 7, the other cadets took one look at him and immediately sorted him into the category labeled not a threat. Poor kid. I mean, I felt for him, I really did. But this is the academy. This is how things work. You cannot change 1,000 years of tradition because one species sends us their, shall we say, less physically impressive specimens. Earth had been part of the coalition for maybe 15 cycles at this point. Still very new, still trying to prove themselves. They had sent us soldiers before. Sure. Big ones. Tough ones. Scary ones even. Marines who looked like they ate rocks for breakfast. Pilots with that unsettling predator focus humans sometimes get. But Marcus? Marcus was not that kind of human. He walked with his head down. He flinched when larger cadets passed too close. He spent his free time in the library archives or the engineering labs, not in the combat simulators or the weight rooms. He was brilliant. Absolutely. But brilliance only gets you so far when you are surrounded by species that value physical dominance above all else. I watched him struggle through combat training. Watched him get thrown around like a practice dummy by Krallick's cadets who outweighed him by 100 kilograms. Watched him fail the strength trials, barely pass the endurance runs, fumble through weapons drills. He never complained. I will give him that. Just kept showing up, kept trying, kept taking his lumps, but everyone could see it. Marcus Webb was not warrior material. He was support staff at best, cannon fodder at worst. The other cadets, they smelled weakness the way predators smell blood. Nothing vicious at first, just the usual testing, shouldering past him in corridors, taking his seat in the mess hall, accidentally knocking his datapad out of his hands. Standard dominance behavior. Marcus took it all without fighting back, which in the academy's social structure meant he was accepting his place at the bottom. Fair enough, I thought. He will find his niche. He will make himself useful in other ways. Not everyone can be an alpha. I was an instructor in tactical theory, mid-ranking, respectable position. I had my own classes to teach, my own responsibilities. I noticed Marcus, sure, noticed his struggles, but I did not intervene. Why would I? This was the natural order. This was how cadets learned their place, learned where they fit in the grand machine of military hierarchy. You do not coddle weakness. You let it find its level or wash out. Cruel? Maybe. Effective? Absolutely. Besides, humans were still a curiosity to most of us. Strange bipedal omnivores from a gravity-heavy world they called Earth. They talked a lot about teamwork and unity, but they seemed fractured, inconsistent. Some of their soldiers were nightmares in combat armor. Others, like Marcus, seemed almost fragile. We did not really understand them yet. Not really. They had not been around long enough for us to get a proper read on their psychology, their culture, their pack dynamics. That last part? That was our first mistake. A big one, as it turned out. But I am getting ahead of myself. This story, this absolute catastrophe of an evening that changed how I view an entire species, started on a completely ordinary day. Third rotation, evening cycle, most cadets finishing their scheduled training blocks. I was in my office, reviewing lesson plans, when I heard raised voices coming from Training Hall 7. Not unusual, cadets blowing off steam, settling disputes, establishing dominance through sparring, standard academy background noise. I should have paid attention. I should have walked down there and checked. But I did not. Because I thought I knew how things worked. I thought I understood the rules. 20 cycles of experience, remember? I had seen it all. Turns out I had not seen anything yet. The voices got louder, angrier, and okay, fine. My curiosity got the better of me. I saved my work and headed down to the observation deck that overlooks Training Hall 7. Standard layout, reinforced walls, equipment storage along the sides, open floor space in the middle for sparring and drills. The lighting was dimmed to evening cycle levels, casting long shadows across the floor. What I saw when I looked through the observation window made me pause, but not, I am ashamed to say, because I was planning to intervene. Marcus Webb stood in the center of the hall, back against a support pillar, and he was not alone. 3 senior cadets had him cornered. I recognized them immediately. Drovkan, a third-year Kralix built like an armored transport vehicle, all muscle and attitude. Next to him, Zell, a Thorian, whose exoskeleton had been decorated with combat awards from the previous semester's war games. And Quinn, another Kralix slightly smaller than Drovkan but meaner, with a reputation for pushing boundaries. This was not a random encounter. This was planned. They had waited until after hours, until the hall was empty, until there were no supervising instructors scheduled in the area. Smart, in a twisted sort of way. Drovkan was doing most of the talking, his voice carrying clearly through the observation deck's audio pickups. So, little human, I have been reviewing the latest strength assessment scores. Yours are, how should I put this, embarrassing. Yes, embarrassing. You scored below even the Pixian cadets, and they have hollow bones. Marcus kept his eyes down, hands at his sides, clearly trying not to escalate the situation. His voice came out quiet, controlled. I passed the minimum requirements. I am focusing on my technical specializations. Oh, kid. Wrong answer. Never show weakness to predators. Never explain yourself. I winced from my position on the observation deck. Quinn laughed. A harsh barking sound. Technical specializations. You mean hiding behind computers because you cannot handle real combat? Tell me, human, what does your pathetic little planet even contribute to the coalition? You have been members for what? 15 cycles? And what have you brought us? Primitive ballistic weapons? Crude chemical propulsion? Laughable. Zell moved closer, using his bulk to crowd Marcus against the pillar. I heard Earth is a paradise world. Mild weather, abundant resources, barely any natural predators. No wonder you are so soft. You come from a nursery planet and think you can play soldier with real warriors. I felt a flicker of distaste watching this. Look, I believe in the hierarchy. I believe in natural selection. But 3-on-1, after hours? This was not dominance behavior. This was just cruelty for entertainment. But I did not move to stop it. Not yet. Part of me, the part shaped by 20 cycles in this system, thought maybe Marcus needed to learn this lesson. Maybe he needed to understand he did not belong here. Maybe this would push him to transfer to a better-suited program. That part of me was an idiot. But I did not know that yet. Marcus tried to step sideways, to leave, to extract himself from the situation. Drovkan moved to block him, one massive hand shoving the human back against the pillar. Where do you think you are going? We are having a conversation about your future here. See, some of us think you are taking up a spot that could go to a real warrior. Some of us think maybe you should quit, go back to your soft little world, leave the fighting to species that are actually built for it. I am not quitting, Marcus said, and I had to give him credit, his voice did not shake. I earned my place here same as everyone else. Wrong answer again, kid. Seriously, did they not teach humans about threat assessment? Drovkan's face twisted into something ugly. Earned? You? You cannot even lift the standard equipment load. You get winded running the basic endurance course. You are a liability, human. Worse, you are an embarrassment. Then he kicked him. Just boom. Front kick to Marcus's midsection, sent the kid sprawling backward onto the training mat, gasping for air. I stood up straighter on the observation deck, hand moving toward the comm panel. This had crossed a line. This was assault. I should call security, should go down there myself, should do something. But I hesitated. My hand hovered over the comm button, because part of me, that same stupid part, thought maybe this was still within the realm of acceptable academy culture. Harsh lesson. Sure. Brutal. Yeah. But Marcus had not fought back, had not called for help, had not activated his personal emergency beacon. Maybe he was accepting this as part of the hierarchy. Maybe he understood this was the price of being weak in a warrior's world. Zelen Quinn laughed, the sound echoing off the walls. Marcus curled on his side, trying to get air back into his lungs, eyes squeezed shut in pain. Get up, Drovkan ordered. I am not done with you yet. This was wrong. Every instinct I had developed over 2 decades of teaching told me this was wrong. But I stood there, watching, telling myself I was observing natural social dynamics, telling myself I was letting cadets work out their own problems, telling myself all sorts of convenient lies that let me avoid getting involved. I did not know, could not have known, that my hesitation was about to become completely irrelevant. Because someone else had heard the commotion. Someone else was already moving. Someone who did not care about hierarchy or natural selection or any of the comfortable lies we told ourselves about how things worked. Someone was coming, and she was absolutely furious. Marcus did get up slowly, painfully, one hand pressed against his ribs. The kid had resilience. I will give him that. Most cadets would have stayed down, would have called for help, would have surrendered. But Marcus pushed himself to his feet, breathing hard, face pale but jaw set with determination. Drovkan circled him like a predator sizing up wounded prey. Oh, look at that. The little human has some fight in him after all. Or is it just stupidity? I can never tell with your species. You do not seem to understand when you are outmatched. Just let me leave, Marcus said, and yeah, there was fear in his voice now. Good. Fear meant he was finally understanding the situation. I do not want trouble. I am just trying to get through the program like everyone else. Quinn moved to block the exit, crossing his arms over his chest. See, that is the problem right there. You keep saying like everyone else, but you are not like everyone else. Human. You are weaker, slower, softer. You are dragging down the standards of this entire institution. Do you know how that makes the rest of us look, having someone like you in our class? I noticed movement in the corridor outside the training hall. Other cadets, drawn by the noise, gathering to watch through the doorway. A Zendari, 2 more Thorians, a Pixian, even a couple of humans from the younger classes. Maybe a dozen students in total. None of them moved to help. None of them called for security. They just watched, some with concern on their faces, others with casual interest, all of them accepting this as part of academy life. This was our culture on full display. The strong dominate, the weak endure. Everyone else watches and learns their place in the hierarchy. I felt sick watching it, but I still did not intervene. What does that say about me? About all of us. Zell laughed, a deep rumbling sound. I heard a rumor about Earth. Want to know what I heard, little human? I heard your planet is so peaceful, so safe, that your biggest predators are what? Large cats. Striped cats and spotted cats. Oh, and bears. Furry creatures that eat berries and fish. How terrifying. How absolutely horrifying. Meanwhile, Dravkan added, moving closer again, I come from Kralix Prime, where the smallest predator can tear through combat armor, where children learn to fight before they learn to walk, where weakness means death, not a participation trophy and a counseling session. Marcus backed up, hands raised in a placating gesture. Look, I know I am not the strongest cadet here. I know that. But I have skills, technical skills that are valuable. Not everyone needs to be a frontline combatant. The coalition needs engineers, needs tacticians, needs people who can think through problems. Wrong thing to say. Again. Seriously, Marcus, read the room. Quinn stepped forward and shoved Marcus hard, sending him stumbling backward into a rack of training equipment. Needs? The coalition needs warriors. Everything else is just support staff pretending to be important. And you are not even good support staff. You are a liability waiting to happen. What do we do with liabilities in wartime, human? We eliminate them, Zal said, and the way he said it made my blood run cold. This had gone from bullying to something darker. These three were not just establishing dominance anymore. They were genuinely angry, feeding off each other's energy, working themselves up into something dangerous. Marcus tried to move toward the door, toward the watching cadets, maybe hoping someone would step in. No one did. They just watched. A few looked uncomfortable. Sure, but not uncomfortable enough to intervene, not uncomfortable enough to challenge three senior cadets who outranked them, who could make their lives miserable. Dravkan grabbed Marcus by the front of his uniform and lifted him off the ground with one hand. The kid's feet dangled in the air. You want to know what I think, human? I think Earth made a mistake joining the coalition. I think you are all too soft, too weak, too caught up in your primitive ideas about fairness and equality. The galaxy does not care about fair. The galaxy eats the weak and rewards the strong. And you are prey pretending to be a predator. He threw Marcus down onto the mat. The human landed hard, the impact forcing air from his lungs again. This time he did not get up as quickly. He stayed down, curled on his side, trying to protect himself. Stay down, Dravkan commanded. Maybe if you grovel enough, beg nicely enough, we will let you crawl out of here with your dignity intact. What little dignity you have left anyway. Marcus looked up at him and I saw something in the kid's eyes. Not surrender, not acceptance. Anger, frustration, the helpless rage of someone who knows they cannot win but refuses to give up anyway. No, he said quietly. I am not begging. I earned my place here. Zell laughed again. Still has some pride left. How cute. How very human. You know what your problem is? You do not know when to quit. You do not understand that some battles cannot be won. Let me educate you. He pulled his foot back, preparing for another kick, this one aimed at Marcus's exposed side. The human saw it coming, tried to roll away, but Zell was faster. The kick connected, solid impact that echoed through the hall. Marcus cried out, a sharp sound of pain, and curled tighter. The watching cadets shifted uncomfortably. A few turned away, but no one intervened. No one called for help. This was the academy. This was how things worked. The strong teach, the weak their place. Natural order, survival of the fittest. All those comfortable lies we told ourselves. I should have stopped it. Right then, right there, I should have used my authority as an instructor and ended this nightmare. But I stood frozen on the observation deck, hands still hovering near the comm panel, paralyzed by 20 cycles of cultural conditioning that told me not to interfere in cadet hierarchy disputes. Dravkan pulled his foot back for another kick, taking his time, making Marcus watch it coming. Last chance, human. Beg for mercy, admit you do not belong here. And maybe we let you leave with just bruises. Marcus looked up at him, blood trickling from his lip where he had bitten it during the last impact. His voice came out hoarse but defiant. Go to hell. Dravkan's eyes narrowed. Wrong answer. His leg tensed, preparing to deliver what would probably be a rib-breaking kick to Marcus's midsection. The watching cadets held their breath. I gripped the observation rail, finally moving to hit the comm panel. Then the door happened, or rather what happened to the door. And everything, absolutely everything, changed. Training Hall 7 had reinforced doors, standard military grade, designed to withstand impacts, lockdowns, even minor explosive decompression events. These doors were built to last, built to protect, built to require proper authorization codes and pneumatic systems to open. This door did not open. It exploded inward. I do not mean it burst open. I do not mean someone kicked it hard and it swung wide. I mean the entire door, frame and all, tore away from the wall with a screech of tortured metal and crashed onto the training hall floor with a deafening bang that made every single person in that room jump. Drovkan's kick froze mid-motion. The watching cadets scattered backward. I slammed against the observation window, heart hammering in my chest. Standing in the doorway, framed by emergency lighting from the corridor and sparking wiring from the destroyed door mechanism, was a human female. Average height for her species, maybe 1.6 meters. Athletic build but not bulky. Dark hair pulled back in a tight ponytail. Standard cadet uniform. Nothing about her physical appearance screamed dangerous. Except everything else did. The temperature in the room dropped. I swear, I felt it even through the observation deck's environmental controls. Not literally, obviously, but there was this presence, this weight in the air that made my breathing difficult. She stood perfectly still, hands at her sides, face completely calm. Not angry calm. Not pretending to be calm. Actually genuinely, terrifyingly calm. Her eyes scanned the room. Took in Marcus on the floor, bleeding and curled up. Took in Drovkan with his foot still raised. Took in Zell and Quinn flanking their victim. Took in the watching cadets frozen in the doorway like prey animals spotting a predator. She processed all of this in maybe 2 seconds. Then she spoke. One question, quiet, almost conversational. The kind of quiet that is somehow louder than shouting. Did I just see what I think I saw? Nobody answered. Nobody moved. The watching cadets looked at each other, then back at her, then started backing away into the corridor. Smart kids. They recognized danger when they saw it, even if it came in a small package. Drovkan lowered his foot slowly, turned to face her, tried to pull himself up to his full height. He had at least 40 centimeters and 70 kilograms on her. He was a trained Kralix warrior. He had combat certifications. He had won academy tournaments. By every logical measure, he should not have been intimidated. He was absolutely terrified. I could see it in his eyes, in the way his hands clenched and unclenched, in the slight backward step he took before catching himself. Zell and Quinn were the same, both of them suddenly very interested in not making eye contact with the human female who had just literally torn a door off its hinges. I checked my data pad quickly, pulled up her file. Riley Torres, second-year cadet, human, Earth origin, North American continent. Combat scores, let me see. Oh no. Top 5% in hand-to-hand combat. Top 3% in combat tactics. Qualified in 7 different martial disciplines. Instructor notes flagged her as exceptionally skilled but, and I quote, requires monitoring for excessive aggression in sparring scenarios. Well, that explained some things. Not the door, though. How in the name of all the stars had she torn a reinforced door off its frame? Human females were not supposed to be that strong. None of our intelligence on Earth indicated they had individuals with that kind of raw power. Unless she had not pulled it off with strength. I rewound the security footage on my pad, watched the moment again. She had not grabbed the door and yanked. She had struck it precisely, at 3 specific structural points in rapid succession. Weak points. Stress points. Points where the frame connected to the wall. She had not overpowered the door. She had disassembled it with targeted strikes while moving at full sprint. That was not strength. That was knowledge. That was precision. That was someone who understood exactly how things were built so she could take them apart. Efficiently. Violently. Without hesitation. I looked back into the training hall. Riley had not moved from the doorway. Had not advanced. Had not threatened. Just stood there, waiting for an answer to her question. The silence stretched out, painful and heavy. Drovkan found his voice first, tried to inject some authority into it, failed miserably. This does not concern you, cadet. This is between us and the human. Academy business. Hierarchy establishment. You should leave. Riley's head tilted slightly to one side. Not a big movement. Just a few degrees. Somehow that tiny gesture was more threatening than any aggressive posture could have been. Academy business, she repeated, Voice still quiet, still calm. Is that what we are calling assault now? Interesting, I must have missed that update to the regulations. Quinn stepped forward, trying to back up Drovkan, trying to present a unified front. 2 Kralix warriors against 1 human female. Should have been intimidating. Should have made her reconsider. Should have made her back down. Look, human. You do not understand our culture. You do not understand how things work here. The weak learn their place or they wash out. It has always been this way. Your friend there needs to accept reality. My friend, Riley said, and now there was something in her voice. Not anger, not yet, something colder. You have been hurting my friend. She said it like she was confirming a fact, like she was making sure she understood the situation correctly before proceeding. Like a technician double-checking calculations before activating a reactor. Clinical. Precise. Absolutely devoid of emotion. That scared me more than anger would have. Anger is hot, explosive, uncontrolled. This was cold, calculated, controlled. This was someone deciding what to do, not reacting emotionally. Zell made a dismissive gesture with one massive hand. He is not your friend. He is weak. He does not belong here. We were simply making that clear to him. Now I suggest you walk away before you get yourself into trouble. There are 3 of us. You are 1. Do the math. Riley looked at him, then at Quinn, then at Drovkan, then down at Marcus, who had managed to prop himself up on one elbow and was staring at her with wide eyes. She looked back at the 3 senior cadets. Then she smiled. Small smile. Barely visible. The kind of smile that does not reach the eyes. The kind of smile predators make right before they strike. 3 of you, she said softly. 1 of me. Yeah, okay, I see the problem. This does not seem fair at all. Drovkan's chest puffed up slightly. Finally, she was seeing reason. Finally, she understood she was outmatched. He opened his mouth to say something, probably to tell her to leave before things got worse. Riley took 1 step into the room. Just 1. A casual step. Easy. Relaxed. Like she was walking into a cafeteria, not a confrontation. You 3 should have brought more friends, she finished. Then she moved. And I, veteran of 20 cycles at this academy, instructor in tactical theory, observer of countless combat scenarios, could barely track what happened next. Fast does not adequately describe it. Fast is what happens in combat simulations. Fast is what trained fighters do in controlled sparring matches. What Riley did was something else entirely. She exploded into motion like a missile launch, 0 to maximum velocity in a fraction of a heartbeat. Drovkan was her first target. Logical choice. Take down the biggest threat first. Standard tactical doctrine. But the way she did it, that was pure artistry, wrapped in brutal efficiency. He outweighed her by 70 kilograms. Had 40 centimeters of reach advantage, had arms like cargo loading equipment. None of it mattered. She closed the distance before he could react, got inside his guard before his brain registered she had moved. Her left hand snapped out, struck his lead wrist, redirected his attempted grab. Her right hand slammed into his elbow joint, hyperextending it, forcing his arm straight. Then she pivoted, used his own locked arm as a lever, used his own mass against him. Physics. Brutal and undeniable. His center of gravity shifted, his balance broke, and suddenly all that weight and muscle became a liability. She swept his leg. He went down. Hard, but she was not done. She rode him down, maintained control of that arm, twisted it behind his back in a joint lock that had to be agonizing. Then, and this is the part that made my jaw drop, she planted 1 foot on his back and used him as a springboard. She actually launched him, sliding across the training mat directly into a storage locker against the wall. The impact sounded like a small vehicle crash. The locker crumpled inward. Drovkan hit it face first with enough force to crack the reinforced plasteel. He slumped down into a groaning heap, arms wrapped around his ribs, completely out of the fight. Elapsed time, maybe 3 seconds. 3 seconds to neutralize a Kralix warrior who had won hand-to-hand combat tournaments. 3 seconds to turn 80 kilograms of human female into an unstoppable force that treated a trained fighter like a training dummy. Zill reacted then, finally his brain catching up to what his eyes had witnessed. He lunged at her from behind, tried to grab her in a bear hug, Tried to use his thorian exoskeleton strength to immobilize her. Sensible strategy. Get her locked down. Use superior strength to hold her. Wait for security. Mistake. Catastrophic mistake. Riley sensed him coming. Probably heard his footsteps. Probably felt the air displacement. I do not know. She did not even turn around fully. Just dropped her weight, changed levels, and drove her elbow backward into his midsection with the kind of force usually reserved for breaching equipment. The sound of the impact echoed through the entire training hall. A sharp crack that made everyone still watching from the corridor flinch in sympathy. Zell's exoskeleton protected him from penetrating damage. Sure, but it did nothing about kinetic energy transfer. The force of that elbow strike transferred through his body, knocked the air from his lungs, shocked his nervous system. He staggered backward, gasping, one hand clutching his midsection. Riley spun then, fast, and delivered a kick to his knee joint. Not trying to break it, I realized, just targeting the weak point where his exoskeleton segments connected. His leg buckled. He dropped to one knee, still trying to catch his breath, still trying to process what had happened. She moved behind him, wrapped one arm around his thick neck in a chokehold, used her other hand to grip her own wrist for leverage. Classic rear naked choke. I recognized the technique from combat manuals. But recognition and defense are two different things. Zell clawed at her arm, tried to pry her loose, but she had position, had leverage, had technique perfected through what must have been years of practice. His struggles weakened. His arms dropped. She held the choke for exactly 2 more seconds, then released him. He slumped forward onto the mat, unconscious but alive, breathing but out cold. Elapsed time from Zell's attack to his unconsciousness, maybe 5 seconds. Maybe I was losing track. My brain could not process what I was seeing fast enough to accurately measure time. That left Quinn, the smallest of the 3, but the meanest, the most vicious. He had backed up during Riley's assault on his friends, had reached the equipment racks, had made a decision that would haunt him for the rest of his academy career. He pulled a training blade. Dull edge, practice weapon, but still solid metal, still capable of causing serious injury in the right hands. He gripped it properly, fell into a combat stance, tried to look confident. All right, human, you got lucky with them. But I am trained in blade work. I have certifications. I have awards. You want to keep going? Come at me. Let us see how tough you are against an armed opponent. Riley looked at the blade, looked at him, looked back at the blade. Then she shook her head slowly, and I swear I heard her sigh. Not scared, not worried, disappointed. Like a teacher watching a student make an incredibly stupid mistake on a test. Really? She asked. You are really going to pull a weapon on me right now? After watching what I just did to your friends? That is your play. Quinn's hands tightened on the blade grip. His jaw clenched. Pride, ego, fear, all of it mixing into a toxic cocktail that destroyed his judgment. Shut up and fight. He lunged. Proper form, proper technique, proper everything he had learned in weapons training, thrust toward center mass, controlled extension, ready to retract and guard. Riley sidestepped. Smooth, minimal movement. Just enough to let the blade pass by her ribs. Her left hand shot out, grabbed his wrist, the one holding the weapon. Her right hand struck his elbow from below, forcing his arm up and straight. She twisted his wrist, sharp and sudden in a direction wrists are definitely not designed to bend. The crack was audible even from the observation deck. Quinn screamed. The training blade fell from his suddenly nerveless fingers. Riley caught it before it hit the ground, one-handed, casual, like she had practiced this exact sequence 1,000 times. Then she spun him around, slammed him back first into the wall next to the equipment racks, and drove the blade through his uniform sleeve, pinning the fabric to the wall. She leaned in close, nose to nose with him, voice dropping to barely above a whisper that somehow carried through the whole room. You pulled a weapon in a fistfight. You escalated to lethal force against an unarmed opponent. That is a court-martial offense, Cadet. That is expulsion and criminal charges. So here is what is going to happen. You are going to stand there pinned to that wall and think very carefully about your life choices. Understood? Quinn nodded frantically, tears of pain streaming down his face, cradling his broken wrist with his good hand. Riley stepped back, surveyed the room. Drovkan groaning in a pile of crumpled locker. Zell unconscious on the mat. Quinn pinned to the wall. Total casualties, 3. Time elapsed, maybe 40 seconds, maybe less. I checked my chronometer, 38 seconds. 38 seconds to dismantle 3 senior cadets who outweighed, outreached, and outnumbered her. The watching cadets in the corridor had scattered completely. Smart. I do not blame them. I was watching from a reinforced observation deck and I felt the urge to run. Riley walked over to Marcus, who was still on the floor, staring at her with an expression that mixed awe, relief, and disbelief. She knelt down next to him, her entire demeanor shifting. The predator vanished. In its place, concern, gentleness, the kind of care you show family. "Hey Marcus," she said softly. "You okay? Can you sit up? Anything broken?" He shook his head, wincing. "Ribs hurt. Lot, but I do not think anything is broken." "Riley, where did you even come from?" She helped him sit up, supporting his weight, checking him over with practiced efficiency. "I was in the adjacent training hall. Heard shouting, came to investigate, found the door locked, got annoyed, fixed the door problem." She said it so matter-of-factly, like tearing reinforced doors off their frames was a minor inconvenience, barely worth mentioning. I finally found my voice, hit the comm panel, called for security and medical. My hands were shaking. 20 cycles of thinking I understood combat, understood capability, understood the species that walked these halls. I understood nothing. Nothing at all. Riley got Marcus to his feet, kept one arm around him for support, made sure he was stable. Then she turned to face the doorway where a few brave cadets were peeking back in, and up toward the observation deck where I stood frozen like a statue, her eyes locked onto mine through the reinforced glass. She knew I had been watching. She knew I had done nothing. I felt about 2 centimeters tall under that gaze. "I think," she said, voice carrying clearly through the hall, "we need to have a conversation. All of us, about humans, about pack bonding, about some fundamental misunderstandings that seem to be circulating around this academy." She was not yelling, was not threatening, but every single person in earshot, including me, paid absolute attention. When someone has just systematically dismantled 3 armed opponents in under a minute, you listen when they talk. Basic survival instinct. "You see Marcus here?" She gestured to the injured cadet leaning against her. "Marcus is my friend. We went through basic training together back on Earth. We served in the same unit. We have known each other for 5 years. 5 years. That means something to humans. That means everything to humans." She paused, made sure everyone was still listening. Behind her, Drovkan groaned from his pile of twisted locker. Zell was starting to regain consciousness on the mat. Quinn whimpered against the wall, still pinned by his own training blade. "Humans pack bond," Riley continued, voice cold and clear as vacuum. "We do not just form alliances or professional relationships, we bond, deeply, permanently. We adopt people into our pack and once you are in, you are family. You hurt one of us, you hurt all of us. You threaten one of us, you threaten all of us. This is not a cultural quirk. This is not a philosophical position. This is hardwired into our psychology at a level most species do not even have words for." One of the watching cadets, a young Zendari, raised a tentative hand. Riley nodded at her. "Question. But humans fight each other all the time. Your history is full of wars. How can you be pack-bonded and still kill each other?" Riley's expression did not change. "Good question. Yes, we fight each other. Yes, our history is soaked in blood. You know why? Because we come from Earth. Capital E, Earth. A death world. Class 7 on the old Coalition danger scale before they retired that system for being too scary. I pulled up Earth's classification on my datapad. She was right. Class 7, same category as plague worlds and radioactive hell planets. I had always assumed that was a mistake in the database. Apparently not. Earth tried to kill us, Riley said flatly. Every single day for millions of years. Predators with claws and teeth and venom. Weather that could freeze you solid or bake you alive. Diseases, parasites, poisonous plants, earthquakes, volcanoes, tsunamis, hurricanes. Our planet was actively hostile to our survival, so we adapted. We got very, very good at violence. We got very, very good at tactics and tool use. and cooperation, because if we did not, we died. She let that sink in for a moment, then continued. We fought everything. Animals bigger than us. Animals faster than us. Animals stronger than us. We fought them and we won. We became apex predators on a planet full of apex predators. Then when we ran out of other things to fight, we fought each other. For resources. For territory. For ideologies. We spent thousands of years perfecting the art of killing other humans. You think your species have martial tradition? We have martial arts that are older than some of your civilizations. We have weapons development that spans our entire history. We have strategic thinking that comes from fighting total wars against enemies who looked exactly like us. Marcus spoke up, voice hoarse. Riley, maybe tone it down a bit. She glanced at him, expression softening slightly. No. They need to hear this. All of them. She looked back at her audience. Here is what you need to understand about humans. We are friendly. We are cooperative. We will laugh with you, work with you, build with you. We are loyal to our allies. We are committed to the coalition. We genuinely want peace. She paused. Let the silence stretch. Then her voice dropped lower, colder. But if you hurt our pack, if you threaten our people, if you cross that line, you find out very quickly that all of our friendliness was a choice, and we can unchoose it. We can go from your best friend to your worst nightmare faster than you can blink. Because underneath all the smiles and cooperation and teamwork, we are still the species that conquered a death world. We are still the apex predators who won a million-year war against a hostile planet. I believed her. Every word. How could I not? I had just watched her prove it. Marcus is a tech specialist, Riley continued, her voice warming slightly. He is brilliant with systems, with tactics, with analysis. The Academy needs people like him. The Coalition needs people like him. Wars are not won by frontline fighters alone. They are won by logistics, by intelligence, by technical support, by 1,000 specialties working together. Strength comes in many forms. You want to know what real strength looks like. Real strength is Marcus showing up every day, taking abuse from people bigger than him, and not quitting. Real strength is dedication to a goal even when the path is hard. She looked down at Drav Khan, who had managed to sit up, holding his ribs. You think you are strong because you can throw a punch? You are not strong, you are just big. Strength is what you do with your advantages. Strength is protecting those weaker than you, not victimizing them. You are cowards. Bullies. You ganged up 3-on-1 on someone half your size and you are proud of that. That is not warrior culture. That is just cruelty. No one argued. Not Drav Khan. Not Zell, who was sitting up now, rubbing his throat. Not Quen, still pinned to the wall. Not any of the watching cadets. Not me. What could any of us say? She was right, about all of it. Security arrived and finally, 4 armed guards rushing into the training hall with weapons drawn. They stopped when they saw the scene. 3 senior cadets down. 1 human female standing calmly with her arm around an injured cadet. A door torn completely off its hinges. The lead guard looked at Riley, looked at the casualties, looked back at Riley. Ma'am, he said carefully, we are going to need a statement. Riley nodded. Absolutely. But first, Marcus needs medical attention. He has probable bruised ribs, possible internal injuries. These 3 assaulted him 3-on-1. I intervened. Everything is on security footage. She pointed up at the observation deck. At me. Instructor Kelt witnessed the entire thing. He can confirm. All eyes turned to me. I swallowed hard, nodded slowly. Confirmed. I saw everything. The 3 senior cadets initiated assault. Cadet Torres intervened to protect Cadet Webb. Her use of force was, proportional to the threat. Was it proportional? I have no idea, but I was not about to argue with her. Not after what I had just witnessed. Not after realizing how badly we had all misunderstood these humans. Medical personnel arrived, started checking Marcus and the 3 injured aggressors. Riley stayed close to Marcus, protective, watchful, a pack member guarding injured pack. I finally left the observation deck, descended to the training hall floor on shaking legs. Time to face the consequences of my inaction. Time to start learning what humans actually were, not what we had assumed they were. Time to accept that everything I thought I knew about this academy, about hierarchy, about strength, had just been thoroughly and violently proven wrong by one human female who weighed 60 kilograms and contained enough controlled fury to tear down reinforced doors. The security investigation took 3 days. 3 days of reviewing footage, taking statements, consulting regulations, and probably a lot of very uncomfortable conversations in the station commander's office. I gave my statement, told the truth, admitted I had watched and done nothing. That part haunts me still. The look the investigator gave me, that mixture of disappointment and disgust, I deserved every bit of it. Station Commander Vrel, a no-nonsense Korthan with 30 years of military service, reviewed every angle of the security footage personally. She watched Drovkan, Zell, and Quinn corner Marcus, watched the assault, watched the escalation, watched Riley tear the door off, which apparently caused 15,000 credits worth of damaged station infrastructure, watched her systematic dismantling of 3 opponents, watched all of it twice, according to rumor, because she could not believe it the first time. Her ruling came down on the 4th day. Drovkan, Zell, and Quinn were expelled from the academy effective immediately. Dishonorable discharge from the cadet program. Black marks on their permanent records. Possible criminal charges pending review by coalition authorities. Their military careers were over before they had even started. 20 years ago, I would have thought that was harsh. Now I thought they got off easy. Riley faced no charges. Clear-cut case of defense of another proportional use of force given the 3-on-1 scenario. The door damage was ruled collateral and necessary given the locked entry and ongoing assault. She did receive a formal notation in her file about excessive property damage, but it was barely a slap on the wrist. Commander Vrel actually commended her response time and tactical efficiency in her official report. I read the commander used phrases like exemplary intervention and textbook application of force. Marcus, recovered. Bruised ribs. No internal bleeding. Nothing permanent. He was back in classes within a week. But something had changed. Other cadets treated him differently now. Not with pity or contempt, but with a kind of cautious respect. He was under Riley's protection. Everyone knew it, and no one wanted to test what would happen if they crossed that line. More than that, though, people started actually talking to him. Started asking him questions about technical systems, about tactical analysis, about his expertise. Turned out when you stopped judging someone solely on their physical strength, you discovered they had other valuable qualities. Revolutionary concept, I know. Riley became a legend. Quietly, but definitely. Cadets whispered her name in corridors. Instructors used her as an example in tactics classes, though they carefully did not mention the door incident. She did not seem to care about the reputation, just went about her business training hard, studying hard, watching out for Marcus and apparently several other human cadets who had gravitated into her orbit. Pack bonding, I realized. I was watching it happen in real time. I spent 20 cycles at this academy. 20 cycles teaching tactical theory, observing combat training, evaluating cadets from dozens of species. I thought I understood warfare, thought I understood what made an effective soldier, thought I understood hierarchies, strength, dominance, all of it. One human female, barely 60 kilograms of compact muscle and controlled fury, taught me I understood absolutely nothing. She taught me that strength is not about size or raw power. She taught me that the most dangerous opponents are not the ones who look scary, but the ones who have spent generations learning to survive against impossible odds. She taught me that humans are not soft, not weak, not unprepared for the realities of combat. They are the opposite. They are survivors of a planetary war that lasted millions of years. They are pack hunters who learned cooperation not from philosophy but from necessity. They are tactical geniuses who perfected violence as an art form because their own planet demanded it. The academy changed after that incident. Not officially, no policy updates or regulation changes, but culturally, instructors started paying more attention to harassment, to bullying, to 3-on-1 situations. Cadets became more careful about who they targeted, who they underestimated, who they dismissed as weak. The human cadets, all of them, gained a new level of respect. Partly from fear, sure, but also from understanding. We had been judging them by our standards, our hierarchies, our definitions of strength. That was our mistake. I see them sometimes in the cafeteria. Riley and Marcus sitting together with a mixed group of humans and non-humans, laughing about something, sharing food, existing in that easy camaraderie that comes from genuine friendship. Pack bond. I watch them and I feel this chill, this primal recognition that probably exists somewhere deep in my own species' evolutionary history. These creatures are friendly. Yes. They smile. They joke. They cooperate. They build alliances. They are genuinely committed to peace, genuinely good allies, genuinely valuable members of the coalition. I believe all of that completely. But I also know with absolute certainty, that their friendliness is a choice they make every single day. And if you threaten their pack, if you hurt their people, if you make them unchoose that friendliness, you discover very quickly that you are facing the most dangerous predator the galaxy has ever produced. Not the biggest, not the strongest, but the most dangerous. Because humans are not just warriors. They are survivors. They are problem solvers. They are pack hunters with millions of years of experience turning disadvantages into advantages, turning weaknesses into strengths, turning impossible situations into victories. They bonded with wolves and turned them into dogs. They looked at birds and built aircraft. They examined the atom and split it open. They do not accept limitations. They do not accept defeat. They adapt. They overcome. They win. And when you hurt one of their pack, when you cross that line, you are not fighting one human. You are fighting all of them. You are fighting their pack bonds, their loyalty, their absolute refusal to abandon their own. You are fighting millions of years of evolutionary pressure that taught them cooperation equals survival. You are fighting a species that learned to thrive on a death world by working together, by protecting each other, by never ever leaving their people behind. Riley Torres taught me that in 38 seconds of brutal, efficient, overwhelming violence, she taught the entire academy. She taught everyone who watched that security footage or heard the story or saw the 3 senior cadets limp onto a transport with their careers in ruins. Do not underestimate humans. Do not judge them by their size. Do not assume their friendliness means weakness. And above everything else, do not hurt their pack, because if you do, you will learn very quickly why Earth is classified as a Class 7 death world. You will learn why humanity spent millions of years fighting for survival and got very, very good at it. You will learn that the species offering you friendship with a smile is also the species that conquered a hostile planet through sheer stubborn refusal to die. I learned all of that from one human female protecting her friend. Best education I ever received. Most terrifying education I ever received. 20 cycles of experience, rendered obsolete in 38 seconds. That is what humans do. They change everything. They rewrite the rules. They show you that your assumptions were wrong, your hierarchies were flawed, your understanding was incomplete. And somehow, despite all of that, despite the fear and the shock and the forced recalibration of everything I thought I knew, I am grateful. Grateful the humans are our allies. Grateful they chose friendship. Grateful they are on our side. Because I have seen what happens when they are not. I have seen it in 38 seconds of controlled fury. I do not ever want to see it on a larger scale. I do not ever want humanity to unchoose their friendliness toward the coalition as a whole. We are very, very lucky they like us. I hope we never forget that. I hope we never give them a reason to change their minds. Because if we do, if the galaxy ever threatens the human pack, I genuinely do not think anything could stop them. Nothing at all.